It is Wednesday, August 18th, 2021, 4:15 p.m. This BOC budget workshop is called to order. City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Mayor Hendricks.
Here.
Vice Mayor Price. Here. Commissioner Hodges.
Here.
Commissioner Andrews.
Here.
Commissioner Hudson.
Here.
First is public comment. Do we have any electronic comment for the commission tonight?
Yes, Mayor, we do. I have two. The first one is from Melanie Doherty, 520 129th Avenue East. I'm a resident of Johns Pass as well as an employee of one of the great establishments on the pass. I'm writing you because I do not know who else to reach out to. My concerns may seem frivolous to others, but as a well-known tourist-driven neighborhood, I can't stand to hear from my guests how unclean, unsanitary, and unstocked the restrooms are here. It's embarrassing and unhealthy. The public restrooms between Hooters and Bubba Gump on the third floor have been locked for weeks. When I was able to get in one day out of 2 weeks, I found no soap, no toilet paper, lots of baby roaches, and this is located between two prominent restaurants. I find it hard to believe that the bugs are only living in the restrooms. Johns Pass has the luxury of flourishing with business, with other places are still trying to recover from the COVID-19. That said, the least we can offer our patrons who have saved money to come vacation in our neighborhood is clean restrooms. I simply want to know who to address my concerns to, as well as there is no such thing as a support staff or even a phone number to tell someone. I'm aware of understaffing issues as I also work where we have staffing shortages. But I can assure you that no one has ever left our business disgusted by unsanitary conditions. I have included my email address. If you can offer suggestions or guidance, I and my guests will certainly appreciate any assistance. Thank you for your attention. So I will reach out to her and let her know that those are private bathrooms, not public bathrooms. But
okay, and
we'll
perhaps
also reach out to those whoever.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
So
we'll take care of it. The next one is from Chris Varley, 12924 Gulf Boulevard, Madeira Beach. Since May of 2021, I've respectfully asked the city to enforce a serious code violation against Sandy Shores condominium, 95% of which are rental units, and it's located across from Johns Pass on Madeira Beach. The videos shared with the city confirm the association has unlawfully been discharging pool chlorine and DE toxic to aquatic life into Gulf Boulevard and other city-owned streets, with the runoff finding its way into the Gulf. Please reach out to me if you would like the video. Many homeowners, including myself, who live at Sandy Shores, are very concerned about this. Many of the Sandy Shores board members live out of state and profit from their rental units, but won't address this issue. It is a clear code violation, not to mention bad optics for the city at a time when red tide continues to wreak havoc on all of us. Please help. And I'll reach out on that one.
Okay, thank you. First topic for discussion tonight, only discussion, is the budget discussion, fiscal year 2022, which will run October 1st, 2021 through September 30th of 2022. Mr. Laughlin, will you like to take the lead on this, please, sir?
Sure. I'll make a few opening remarks.
Your mic's not on?
Yes, test 1, 2. Good to go. So I'll make a few opening remarks and then kind of open the floor for you all to deliberate. But just the few remarks I wanted to make, just the budget document itself Definitely thinned out, more simplified from years past. I think previous years' budget documents were almost 400 pages, so this one I'm trying to skinny down and just give you all what I feel is the basic information that you all need to make informed decisions. Of course, with that said, if there is any schedules, tables, information in the previous budget document from last year, years past, that you all liked or found very informative and want to see for inclusion in this year's, by all means, this is a working draft and fully available to edit and provide any additional support that you all desire. So please don't feel free to speak up and let me know if there's any more information in this tentative draft that you have here that you'd like. Just a reminder, so the way this process works, do I have 10 seconds to speak? I think that timer's on.
Clara?
Talk fast, Andrew.
Yes.
Jeez, I didn't know I was that long-winded, but I guess I get the hint. So just to remind you all how the process works, so we can have as many budget workshops from here until our first public hearing, which is required under TRIM guidelines, which is going to be September 8th. So the state requires 2 public hearings. The first is to approve the tentative millage rate, which we've already preliminarily set at a previous workshop at 2.75 mils, which is the same as last year. And that's what's already gone on the TRIM forms to the citizens, the property owners of Madeira Beach. So they've received that. They've already received notice of that first public hearing time and date, which is on September 8th, I believe at 5:30 p.m., if I'm not mistaken. And then the second one is going to be on September 22nd. So depending on how this meeting goes, we can say, hey, we're satisfied with everything, here's a few tweaks that we want to make, and just update the budget document to have that ready for September 8th, and we're good to go. Or in this meeting, we can say, here's some things we want you to take back, update, let's have another workshop and go through subsequent changes that we might come up with in this meeting. So you all obviously have the latitude to make that decision and determine if you want one or more workshops up until that September 8th date. Okay. Just a few highlights that I want to make on the budget document, especially changes from the previous one from what I believe was the July 21st workshop date. So if you go to the actual budget summary, I love this one because it just gives you a fund by fund snapshot of where everything is from revenues and expenditures and what we're either bringing forth an excess fund balance or net position that we can carry forward to future years, or we're in a deficit position, we've got to use existing fund balance net position to balance the budget for this particular fund. So that's on page 20 of 82 of your packet, page 19 of the budget document. So in the general fund, we are bringing forward $1,638,363, so about $1.6 million of excess that we'll have to carry forward for future years, which is quite significant. What's the primary driver of that is going to be the American Rescue Plan Act funds, which actually just as of yesterday, I have with me the American Rescue Plan Act Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund Agreement. City manager signed it yesterday, so we will be getting those monies. Total is $2,154,172. Comes in 2 tranches, separated by approximately a year apart. So imminently, we will be receiving half of that, which is approximately like $1.077 million. If you go to the detail of general fund inflows, which is on page 21 or 23 of 82 of your packet. There is a new line item called ARPA NEU, which is the non-entitlement unit. That's what that stands for, grant proceeds. You see that for $1,077,000. So the question is, well, what can we spend it on? So I ran what's called a revenue loss calculation, which is in accordance with the interim final rule released by the Treasury to say if you experienced a loss of revenue as a result of the pandemic, you can calculate what that amount is and use those dollars for government services. So I performed that calculation, and my revenue loss calculation amounted to $2,011,465, well above the $1,077,077, almost up to the entire amount that we're allotted, which is great news. That gives us a lot of latitude on how we can spend those funds. So in the interim final rule Q&A, the Treasury passes Q&A guidance periodically. With me, I have the one passes of July 19, 2021, so just less than a month ago. Question 3.8 asks, once a recipient has identified a reduction in revenue, are there any restrictions on how recipients use funds up to the amount of the reduction? Let me just read what was said. So it says, the interim final rule gives recipients broad latitude, I love that, to use funds for the provision of government services to the extent of reduction in revenue. Government services can include, but are not limited to, maintenance of infrastructure or pay-go spending for building new infrastructure, including roads, modernization of cybersecurity, including hardware, software, protection of critical infrastructure, health services, environmental remediation, school or educational services, and the provision of police, fire, and other public safety services. However, paying interest or principal on outstanding debt, replenishing rainy day or other reserve funds, or paying settlements or judgments would not be a provision of government service, since these uses of funds do not entail direct provision of services to citizens. So in it, it basically says police, fire, and other public safety services. So we could use that, to me it's as clear as day, we could use that ARPA revenue money to essentially fund the law enforcement and fire budget, which definitely exceeds the $1.77 million. So we have that latitude. That's why I'm bringing that in to general fund revenue for FY 2022, and we can denote it as to pay for government services, and clearly public safety, law enforcement, fire, et cetera, is an allowable use as it stipulates so in Q&A 3.8. Next item I want to mention is just on capital projects. I know there were some questions in the last one about parking garage, road work, et cetera. So at the departmental level, I have added kind of a detailed listing of all projects coming up for the next fiscal year as well as future years. So you have basically our multi-year capital improvement plan, condensed into this document. So of noteworthiness, if I go to the local option sales tax fund, so that's the lost fund of the Penny for Pinellas Fund, that starts on page 54 of 82 of the document. The next page, 55 of 82 of your packet, or page 53 of the budget, shows the revenue. So we get revenue, we're expecting revenue of about $567,000 from Penny for Pinellas proceeds, as well as interest, approximately $30,000. And then the outflows are all capital in nature. And again, there's restrictions on how we can spend this money based on state statute. So it's basically for government office buildings, public safety vehicles are the primary. So in 22, we do have $200,000 for a parking garage at 130th Avenue and Gulf Boulevard. So that's the engineering and design portion. And then in future years, 2023, 2024, we've budgeted roughly $3 million over those next 2 years. So we do have currently budgeted for a parking garage over a several-year period to be funded by the lost fund. And to the extent that the lost fund cannot absorb all that, then we can also explore financing options or transfers from the general fund to fund in the future. But at least for FY22, the lost fund on its own can absorb all the $950,000 of budgeted capital outlays that we've got laid out there on page 53. There was also some questions on road projects. And so those are shown in the stormwater fund. So if I move to that, stormwater fund starts on page 74 of 82 of your packet, and then page 66 of the budget document is operating, or 75 of 82, and then capital is on page 67 of the budget, page 76 of 82 of your packet. So for FY22, we've got we decided to combine Area 3 and Area 5, and of course, Megan Wefker can provide more detail if you have specific questions of this, but decided to combine Area 3 and Area 5 into one project. So we have estimated expenditures in year 1 for roadway and stormwater improvements, starting in 2022 for $2 million, and then Area 3 and 5 for year 2 in 2023 for $2 million. And then we've also got, as you can see in future years, so Area 6, for example, the additional road, we have got also Gulf Lane roadway drainage improvements, and then Area 6. So all that's broken out in the future fiscal years in stormwater. So that's where our roadway work is budgeted in the stormwater fund.
Andrew, excuse me, Area 3 and 5, can you clarify on what those areas are?
Sure.
Is that Marguerite and Pruitt?
Yes, and that's also 129th and 131st. I believe the latter is Area 5 and Area 3 is Marguerite and Pruitt.
Okay.
What were those streets again? 120?
129 and 131 avenues.
So this $2 million, what is that going to do for us in those areas?
It does the resurfacing and remilling of, the remilling and resurfacing of the roadways, improves any of the drainage problems that we have, and it's set up basically as Andrew mentioned, one project, because we can get better pricing by combining those two projects, and it's split up though over starting the latter part of the fiscal year of 22 and then being finished in the early part of 23.
And the original funding mechanism for these was a debt issuance in 2019 in the stormwater fund.
Well, that's part of what I was getting at is, so are we going to do what we did on Crystal Isle and just go ahead and do these and do the stormwater and the whole bit, or how is that going to work?
The recommendation, from the engineering firms, because of the age of the roadways and the makeup of the soil and so forth, and the sea level rise issue, investing in a large restructuring of the roadways and everything is not really cost effective for these neighborhoods. So from what my understanding is, and Megan, correct me if I'm wrong, but by resurfacing and remilling it will get us the time frame out of the roadways that we probably would have by doing a complete rebuild, that the base is still sufficient to substantiate the weight of the traffic that's driven on the roadways. I think in Crystal Island we had base problems, which is why the engineering showed that the roadway base actually had to be replaced as well. But by doing the remilling and the milling and repaving, we should be able to get through that project without any problems. But Megan, you're there.
I would have to check and see if there has been core sampling done on Area 3 and 5. I'm not sure how far that had gone. I know based on previously when we were trying to get funding from SwiftMud, Area 3 and 5 do not meet the criteria any longer for funding. So therefore, in order to make the project come in under budget, it was turning into a milling, resurfacing, curb repairs, and stormwater repairs,
So,
rather than total rebuild.
so the stormwater is not in as bad a shape? Are we, is the stormwater system there okay then? Is that what I'm
So
hearing?
some of them are not. We have a brand-new pipe that's right near the Elks Club, all in the intersection and going out. So some of them have been repaired recently or lined recently, but some have not. There are at least 2 that I know that are going to need to be lined or replaced.
So that is in here then?
Yep,
To do
that will be included in on the project to
Okay.
replace those pipes that are not
Good
good.
enough. So we're not just
No,
remilling only to have to come back in a few years and tear it up?
absolutely not.
That's, okay, good enough. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Mayor, if you don't mind me adding, the reason why it didn't match up for the Swift Mud funding wasn't anything different to our projects. It was that the criteria changed from the governor's office on putting the focus more on the content in the water having to do with sewage leaks and those type of things, not stormwater sewers, but sanitary sewers. And so, since we didn't have that problem when they tested the water, it didn't match for their funding.
Okay, but there is some grant funding, I do believe, from what I understand, from Representative Cheney,
Yes,
that
and
we should go after.
we have a meeting tomorrow to discuss that, so.
Okay.
Okay. So the next item I want to just cover with you briefly is on personnel, because I know there was some discussion and questions on personnel. So in your budget package, on page 19 of 82 or page 18 of the budget document, I did include the funded positions and total personal services costs, which is wages plus benefits, a multi-year trend from 2017 to 22. Apologize, in the title of that table it says 2017 to 21, but 22 has been added. In the previous workshop that we went through in July, the personnel figures that were provided to you incorporated a 3% cost of living increase to the existing wage rates of all employees throughout the city. So what the directors met to discuss some of the some of the labor shortage issues that we're facing, trying to fill positions at those lower wage positions. And so what we decided to do was bring the lowest wage rate for any position at the city to a minimum of $12.50. And I believe the lowest was a little over $10 for an employee in recreation. So we bumped that employee up to $12.50. $12.50 became the lowest. We eliminated the COLA and just brought everybody up for whatever that wage differential was, which is approximately $2 and change, and just increased everybody's pay by $2 and change. So if you were making 10 whatever, you're now making $12.50. If you were making $13, now you're making 15 and change. So just bringing everybody up to, which the intention of that was largely in order to be more competitive in the marketplace for those positions in that $10 to $20 an hour rate, which we're having a lot of trouble filling. So the impact on that in the budget, and then for the higher wage positions, more at the director level, we were going to take the higher of a combination of COLA and merit, which could have been up to 6%, or the $2 and change in whatever was higher was what was allocated to the higher wage positions. So the ultimate impact from the previous budget that I provided to you all in July was approximately $228,000. Also included in that is the cost of group health insurance went up from what we're budgeting. We budgeted approximately $10,000 in fiscal year 21, initially used that figure in what I presented to you in July, and we've increased that to a little over 11,000. It's a little over 1,000 per employee on group health insurance. So that did have some impact, and the remainder was on bumping the wages up to be, again, more competitive in the marketplace, set that low point at $12.50. Last thing I wanted to provide is just there are some needed updates. So as I publish this and department heads have looked at it, and there's some things that we still need to iron out. They're more minor, but a couple things I'll bring to your attention that we'll be updating in the next iteration of the budget document. One is on the inter-fund allocation. So now that the building fund, the building department has now moved downstairs, they're going to they're renting basically space out to the general fund, since the building fund bore the entire $750,000 plus expense of building out that space. So the general fund does charge an administrative overhead cost to the building fund, but then we're in the midst of working out and finalizing the details of a then charge back that will reduce that overhead expense to the building fund for that space and square footage that the building fund rents out to the general fund. So we're kind of tweaking through those numbers on those interdepartmental charges, and coming to some finality there. So that'll create some changes, but not significant. It won't significantly impact any particular one fund's budget. I just want to make sure it's done fairly across the board, given some of the space changes that we just had recently. Also, just on the personnel side, on the subject of building, we do have a code compliance officer who's also doing rental inspections and lien searches. So some of that time is not building related, but that person's salary is 100% building. So we're looking at carving out and allocating some of that salary to the general fund. So those are a couple examples of some minor tweaks that we'll be making. There's also one in Marina I think it shows 5.25 FTEs in the Marina section of the budget, when I believe in reality it's just 5 employees. And so especially if there's questions on Marina, the Marina director can give some more guidance on what those changes are. But again, some small minor line item changes that won't have, like I said, any material impact on the budget, but we'll be still making some minor tweaks for the next iteration. And those are all of my initial comments. I figured, though, completely up to you how you all want to dictate the rest of the meeting. Last time, you all just kind of took turns and asked questions and hit specific pages. I thought that went well, but certainly I'm going to open the floor to you all, and feel free if that's how you want to go through the budget and just kind of take turns in asking the questions based on the areas that you reviewed. And we've got the whole team available to answer, so take it away.
Vice Mayor, would you like to start?
I would be happy to. First, a question. The analysis on the employees' pay and how we're, for purposes of budgeting, I understand what you want to do, but hopefully that does not lock in the city to do those actions, right? I mean, I do believe we need to raise the Madeira Beach's minimum wage, so to speak, if we're having such a hard time finding people, because I do understand other, places are offering more per hour and maybe some benefits that we're not. So I don't mind that, but I don't think we've agreed as a group to give everyone a 3% increase and give everybody another $2.75, all the way up the line, or 6% for directors. So I understand putting it in there as something that we're budgeting for, but I just want to make sure that this is something that we're all going to be discussing, because I think across-the-board raises was something we decided to kind of get away from, and we want to go more towards merit, except maybe those absolutely lowest paid employees that if we're having trouble filling slots, let's do it. And And I understand that forces some more people to go up, because someone that's worked here for 3 years, I don't want them making the same thing as someone walking in the door, kind of thing. But I don't want it to go all the way up without us thinking about it. Do we agree with that, or?
I absolutely agree. That was the first thing I wrote down, was where did this 3% come from? We ended up, we talk about holding the line. Cost of living, I don't think that's a cost of living figure. Certainly 2% was not a cost of living last year, and we talk about trying to hold costs down, but we're going up and up and up and up. And I understand it on the lower end, just like the service industry. They're having problems getting employees at that low end scale, and I got no problem with those being bumped up. But Madeira Beach pays very, very well. And on the upper end, we need to take a look at it. I mean, we've got somebody doing nothing but answering the telephone and making $20 an hour, and I think we're just getting upside down on some of this, and we need to take a close look at what we're doing. I think we're just getting ourselves kind of out of control on some of this. That's just my feeling.
So for purposes of budgeting, can we, we'll go with what you said, but is this something we need to discuss now and hash out, or can we move forward on, just because you announced it, I don't want it to become in stone, basically.
I think it certainly merits discussion, and, love to hear what your thoughts are with regard to how to handle comp adjustments, and
we still may be spending that $220,000. Okay, it's just I don't like it on the across the board. I think we need to ask our directors or managers to evaluate people and get merit. I want to pay our rock star wages, and if people aren't pulling their weight, I don't want them to be getting a big increase just because they work here.
Sure. So the directors did meet, and so we did, make an attempt to evaluate every employee and provide a kind of a merit assessment of a 0, 1, 2, or 3, and then based on the amount of the $2 and change, that increase to someone's pay, if someone was making 18 and now making 20, that percentage far outweighed not far, but clearly outweighed what the merit otherwise would be. So that was kind of what the intention was, trying to lift the lowest wages. So if you're making, 10 and now you're making $12.50, you've got a 30-40% increase. And, if you're making, 20, 22, and now you're making 24 and change, your percentage is lower, but it's still more than 3%. So it's how do we be fair to everybody and, bump that lowest point up to the $12.50, but just because this person, got the $2 and change, we wanted to make that, an across the board, and evaluate that against what we would otherwise provide in a merit increase on a percentage basis, and we just took the higher of those two. So
we're not doing that, I can tell you right now. I know that's easier for everybody in this room to do it like that, but I don't think that's the way to go. And I don't want to promote, and we did it last year, and I think last year we even said, you know what, when we have more time, we're going to hash this out a little bit better. It's very easy to say, okay, we're going to give cost of living 1, 2, 3. I don't even know why we even talk about cost of living. I don't mind talking about raising everybody because we have to raise our lowest people. But there are going to be some people that don't get a raise if they're not a high performer, or if they've just somehow managed to work their way into a position where they're getting paid a lot more than what the position should be paying, in my opinion, i.e. $20 for someone to answer the phone, right?
Yeah,
So,
I think our purse strings have been way too loose on a lot of this. And where did this 3% figure come up, Andrew? How did we come up with a 3% increase?
We did a 3% across-the-board increase last year to wages. The year before, we attempted to enact a merit-based system that was based on a written evaluation. That came back about 98 to 99%, every employee receiving the full maximum number of points that gets you the highest rate, whatever it was.
That's the flaw. Because
Right.
people don't, we need our management to have the business acumen to be able to look at their employees and say, I've got an A+ employee, I've got a C employee, and I've got a D- employee. And I'd say we somehow managed to talk about who's in every, not who, but what positions are in every department, how many employees do you have, you've got X amount of money, you can decide what raises go to whom, right? If you think someone's a rock star, you give them $5 an hour. If you think someone isn't pulling their weight, this is one of the ways to do it. We don't have all A+ employees here, so we should not be getting all A+ evaluations,
Sure.
right? So,
And,
my 2 cents.
yeah, I agree. I mean, I thought we gave 2% last year, so, I don't know where I was, but, I'm not comfortable with this 3%. I'm comfortable with the people that are down at, $10 or so, bringing them up to $12.50. I got no problem with that. But, folks, the day of just giving out raises just because we got the money is over. It's not acceptable. We've got people that aren't performing or are underperforming, and these managers have got to step up to the plate and say that. And we've got to watch this budget. And I said that last year, and I will say it again this year. And to me, 3% is just too much to be giving. And apparently this was an arbitrary figure. Is that an accurate statement, or is it not accurate?
Well, 3% is not what we enacted. We enacted a potential increase up to 6%, or what that differential was to get that lowest paid person up to $12.50, which amounted to $2 and change. So it potentially could have been the higher of what your merit evaluation was through a discussion with the directors. And so for the vast majority, the higher was the $2 and change. And I'll just make, a couple of my own personal reflections, because, look, I have no skin in this game. I'm a contractor. I'm completely unaffected by this. And I come from the public sector, where, to me, everything you're saying makes perfect sense and is easy. I was a partner in an audit and accounting firm, and it was very easy to discern between a low performer, a mid-grade performer, and a high performer as they're performing an audit, doing, complex consulting projects, tax returns for complex business entities. You can kind of see who's struggling to get it and who's not. I can sympathize with this group that it is a little more complex when you're dealing with sanitation workers or recreation employees, where if you show up to work, you're reliable, you do your job, and you do it, well, you perform, but there's less complexity there in terms of the type of work that you're doing. I can see the differentiation. I can see.
Then maybe that department gives everybody maybe we say, okay, sanitation, you've got, X amount of thousand out, you got 5 employees, or I can't remember what sanitation has, but, you've got this many employees, we're going to give you this much money to do on raises, and then let's have the manager or whoever's overseeing that group, even director level, say, I'm going to take this money, and you know what? All 5 of these people show up on time, I don't get complaints, I get nothing but praise, I'll divide it equally. Then that's up to that department to do that. But I think that would be rare.
Yeah, well.
I mean, maybe in the sanitation department, but I think most departments, people have different levels of, well, we certainly have different levels of positions because some of them are called supervisory or 1, 2, 3. So
I don't think any of us have a problem with the lower end of the scale with bumping people up, and I realize we need to do that. It's as you go up from there. When you've got, and I mean no disrespect to anyone, but when you're answering the phone for $20 an hour, I don't see that you get these big increases. I think the funds that we're using for increases need to be on the lower end of the scale, on these people that are making $10.50 an hour, to bring them up to where they're making more of a living wage, and not up at the higher end of the scale. I think if we did it last year, I disagreed with it last year. I disagree with it this year for the higher ends of the scale, and I think we need to bump our people that are at the lower end. Listen, the city already does something for our employees that most companies don't do anymore, and that is health care. We're one of the few around that doesn't, at the very least, have employee participation in their health care, and we pay 100% of it. And that has to be taken into consideration as a part of these salaries. And we have increases every year in health care costs. And if we're going to continue to have that as a benefit, these people have to realize that they're getting a benefit that almost no company out there offers anymore. Mm-hmm. And so I'm all for raising the lower end of the scales, but for everyone to come in and say, yeah, we're all getting big raises again this year, it's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. That's the way I feel about it anyhow.
Mr. Mayor, may I take a swing at this?
Please.
Okay. Actually, I'm kind of really glad this conversation is going this way, because I think that it's been something that I've wanted to engage in the entire time I've been on the board. A couple of positive things. If you look at my favorite chart of all time, thank you, Andrew, I do love this thing. The one on 18 and 19, or 18, that actual 2017 through 2022 budget. There's a couple of really telling things on here, and I think, we got to take a real good look at this, because some really positive things too. People say I played favorites, but I love Chief, but I gave him a little bit of the what for about his number from 2021, and I see that in 2022, he lowered it $540,000, which, kudos to you. I have a feeling you're, never mind, I'm not going to mention his name. But that, and I want you all to take a look at this, because that is the big driver to why the number is pretty close. 21 and 2022 are relatively close because of that big chunk coming out of the fire department. And that's great, okay? I also agree with you guys completely that, and coming from a guy that employs a lot of $10 to $20 an hour people, the market out there is horrendous for it. Yeah. You will find people that are going to, when they're making that much money, they are going to job jump consistently until they get to where they got to go, right? So, it's a tough market, but I do agree with raising it. You said 1250, 13. That number doesn't bother me either way. Whatever number we got to get to get quality people, because that's also building your farm system, and those are the people that are going to end up graduating up into big positions. Jay Hatch is sitting right here. His first day at work, when I hired him, he was picking cigarette butts in John's Pass, making $9 an hour, $10. I don't even know what it was, but it wasn't nearly what he's making now, okay? But that's our farm system. That's how we develop people and do that. So I think we got to be real careful that we don't lose really, really good people that can be lifers here. I think we got to pay attention to that. But, looking through the budget, you got to look at a bunch of different things as far as I'm concerned. I think a lot of the numbers are pretty tight, and I agree with them. I've stated it before, and I'll state it every time we talk about it. I think having a full-time or a part-time HR person in here for a town with 70 employees really boggles my mind. If we follow the rules, we can always we've got labor attorneys that can handle certain things that if we get into trouble, we shouldn't be getting into trouble. We have a charter, we have rules, we need to stick to them, and we won't need that number. But be that as it may, last year, the other thing I wanted to mention too, when you bring people up, and this is, again, going back to our salary survey, okay? You don't just go from $10 to $13 an hour without the expectation of them taking on more responsibility, okay? Anybody that's getting, I don't agree with the $2 an hour bump thing, I don't know where the 6% came from either. I don't know where that number came from. We had a salary survey done, which I didn't agree with at the time, but the salary survey was done, and the salary survey told us one thing. We are top-heavy, okay? We have way too many people with ballpoint pens and not enough people with shovels in their hands. So we're top-heavy. So what do? We got people on, and I stole this from Commissioner Price. She had lent it to me, and I haven't given it back to her yet. But what I would like, Andrew, for the next meeting is that everybody gets a copy of this. It's the staff budget, their position, their name, their position, how much they make, and what the minimum salary range is for each person. Okay, if we're really going to do a scrub of this, that's what we got to do. We got to go through it. We got people here that are listed as supervisors that don't supervise anybody. We got a department that doesn't even really exist anymore, and it's all farmed out, and we have a supervisor of that department. That makes no sense. And that person's making $3 an hour over the maximum they're supposed to be making, okay? $3 an hour here and there adds up when you start putting these all together and start putting this puzzle together. If we got to find $250,000 to make up for the difference that Andrew's talking about, well, let's go this way. What are you giving me, okay? Last year we got rid of an information officer, right? It was a position that was making $80,000, okay? It was a made-up position during an era that we probably all want to forget, okay? And everybody's going to have some thick skin because I'm going to talk about some things that are going to make people uncomfortable, all right? The same thing happened at the marina. We never had a marina manager before. The marina manager was invented because of the marina audit, which 4 of us on this board, before Dave got on, debunked the whole thing. Said there was no legitimacy to it. But we still have a marina manager in place who, and Brian, this is no disrespect, Brian can't, and I'm all for taking a shot on an internal employee, but the low-end number for the marina manager is $28, right? Brian's making $36. How does a person with no marina experience get $8 an hour more than the low-end portion of it, okay? You basically took somebody with no experience, put him into one of the, as far as experience-wise, one of the most experienced units in the city, and let him be the boss. Guys, that doesn't make sense. And we also had a conversation up here last year, and I don't care where the finance department spends their money or uses their resources, but we had a conversation up here last year prohibiting a bookkeeper in the marina. Prohibiting it. There was a bookkeeper in the marina that's there every day. Am I correct?
Currently, Donna is helping the marina, yes.
She works in the marina every day. We prohibited that. Now, if that's the case, why, way back in the day, and nobody wants to talk about that, but we had one person who 25% of their salary, and his assistant, 25% of her salary, came out of the marina fund. Now we have a full-time marina director, and now we have a part-time finance person whose FFE is not even, or her funded position is not even on the marina fund. And that's where she works. So my point, guys, is we're spending a lot of money where we don't have to spend money. The marina is not doing, remember, we talked about this the other day. You look at the revenue lines at the marina. The marina's gas, the marina's a store, and the marina's boat slips. 93%, I believe, of their revenues are derived from there, okay? And only a small portion of, with the most labor-intensive, I would think, would be the store, or maybe gas, but they're not, either one of them is not more labor-intensive. But I look at this number, at $354,000, you guys would laugh what I pay for a 24-hour store that does basically the same amount of revenue. And the increase in revenue, everybody's going to go, oh, well, they've increased revenue. Well, yeah, gas went from $2.50 to $4 a gallon. And if 80% of their revenue is derived from there, of course, the numbers are going to look better.
And we ran out of gas this weekend.
Okay. So you see my point. My personal recommendation, I'm not going to tell, what to do after that point, but I think the elimination of the marina manager position would save us a lot of money and be able to increase the bottom line salaries of some of these lesser salaried employees to get them up to a livable wage so that we can keep them for a while. That'd be my recommendation.
Okay, let me go back to Vice Mayor Price. She had the floor, and we were on her items. Do you have any more items?
I do.
To go over?
Just two?
And then we'll just work down the commission
Okay.
to Commissioner Hodges, and then myself, and then Commissioner Andrews.
Okay. So if you go to page 42 of 82, Johns Pass Village. There's four lines here that I don't understand. The very first one is the first one, contractual service. So our contractual service was higher than what we budgeted for, but yet we didn't cover it still, in my opinion.
Would you like me to answer that?
I would.
All right, so that covers the cleaning of the bathrooms in Johns Pass Village. That reason why that number is much lower for 2022 is because with the new contract and the breakdown of the price per square foot, it was much cheaper than what it was previously being charged.
Okay, good. So we don't have to increase that, as I thought. Okay. What about, go down to maintenance building.
So with that, we were going to do some maintenance on the bathrooms and on the bell tower.
Okay.
The bell tower needs a little bit of love.
It does, okay. Here's a biggie, maintenance grounds parks.
That's the boardwalk for the pilings.
Okay,
That number's included in on that.
got it. And then finally, department supplies.
That is benches, new benches for the village, and possibly new trash cans if needed. And there was something else included in on that. Supplies with the boardwalk, I can't remember exactly what I had listed.
Okay. So these are expenditures that we don't make every year.
No, we have not replaced those benches.
We just had to add to it.
Probably 10 years, and I want to switch them over to the recycled plastic benches, which one bench is about $1,000. So they last much longer, and they hold up better, and we probably have about 20 in the village.
Those benches are full.
And I will say that I know they do this in Sunset Beach. They have those types of benches, and they sell them to people.
Memorial benches.
Memorial benches, and that might be something we want to take a look at.
We could take a look at that, because we have the brick service, so we could
Yeah.
include the benches on that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the pilings, is that for actual replacement of pilings?
Replacement if needed, repair,
And
cleaning.
some
or
wrapping and whatnot?
It's all of the above. If
Okay.
it needs to be replaced, it'll be replaced and wrapped.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very satisfied. And the only other thing I would like to add, I guess, under non-departmental, page 45 of 82, I was hoping we could make a new entry for our, and I touched on this the other day, the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary. I found out a little bit more information on this. I think I mentioned last time that in 1954, the city of Madeira Beach built that building for them. We've never given them any money to maintenance it, but it's one of the city's assets, and I think we need to help them out now that their air conditioner has broken. With the broken air conditioner, they can't do the classes. Without the classes, they've got no income, basically. This is a completely volunteer group. And all of their money, their only source of income is from teaching the boating safety courses. And they put out brochures and all sorts of stuff. We've got people that have been working out of there for 19, 20 years. The Madeira Beach Flotilla, they do safety patrols on the holidays and on weekends. They fix markers, which I did not know. That building that we built for them back in the 50s has a radio room, and volunteers work it and actually do a radio watch during times when other communications may be down. It's a real asset to, Madeira Beach and Johns Pass to have this there. I found out that Gulfport actually pays all the maintenance on their U.S. Coast Guard auxiliary building. So I would like to, similar to, I guess I didn't know where else to put it, but I was hoping we could give them $10,000 for them to put in a new air conditioner and do a mold search and get their thing up and running again. And I understand pretty soon they're going to need a seawall, so maybe if we give them $10,000 a year or whatever, we can...
Is that our property that building is on?
It's not our property. It's
okay.
The county's land, but it's our building.
Okay. But
if that building is ever not used for a Coast Guard auxiliary station, it all reverts back to the county. So,
can I make
let me know your thoughts.
Suggestion? And it's on my list of things to follow up on, but I haven't gotten to that from our meeting last week. But with the county, it'd be nice to, if we're going to be investing regularly in the maintenance of the building and the seawall, it'd be nice to get some leeway in there for, not having the caveat. If we're putting money in there and for some reason the Coast Guard Auxiliary, maybe through whatever edict the federal government has, no longer is allowed to be in Madeira Beach and the communities, it's a shame that no fault of ours that the building, reverts back to the county. So I'd like to maybe, touch base with Jill Silverboard or somebody at the county and see if we can come up with a better understanding if we're going to be supplying money to maintain the building. I'm all for the Coast Guard Auxiliary. Having a good auxiliary really helps the public in not only the educational, but, and also, the safety aspect of it. The boating safety inspections that they do are great, and I'd love to have a better relationship with them so we can do boating safety days, maybe quarterly throughout the city, and just promote better boating, and, have them do their courses and so forth. So. Well,
they used to do it the first Saturday of every month.
Right.
And it takes a while to go through it. I don't know, it's a great thing to have.
If y'all will let me research it, and then I can get with Andrew, and we can look at the appropriate number that we want to put in there.
Well, we need an air conditioner. I know that.
Well, we need an air conditioner, and I think we're going to need.
So
I think we're going to need that dock pretty soon too. So the seawall, I mean. Yeah. So because we don't want to lose the dock as part of it.
No, they have to have the dock because that's where.
But we'll allocate some funding. We'll put it in the appropriate spot. If you just give us an opportunity to do a little bit of research on it, and when we come back at either the meeting on the 8th, if you resolve all the other issues, or if we have another meeting, we'll update you on where we are with it.
Just a thought, just talking out of the box. I know everybody loves their fireworks. Maybe we should look at maybe a laser light show, or maybe cutting some of the funding from the fireworks display and using that funding for the Coast Guard. Maybe that's money better spent, at least for a year.
The only thing I would again, a caveat out there, this is our 75th anniversary year, we're going to be celebrating too, so
Well,
I don't know if that's the year you want to make that cut, but it's totally within your discretion.
No, that's a good point. Well, maybe we could get, the vice mayor to get the library to drop another 10 off there.
I do have Director Hatch at the microphone,
Don't put me through that.
Hey, a thought on the fireworks. We're actually, I've got a conference next week that's Florida Festival Events Association. A lot of fireworks vendors attend that, so our intent is to meet with as many as we can, and then we are going to start formulating RFP for fireworks next year. But we've got a couple of ideas and thoughts that might adjust the budget for that. So my goal would be to put that on the first meeting in September, just to bring it forward to you all, and I assume we'll have a budget meeting between then and the end of the deadline, I guess. So that'll give us a little more clarity on that, so I'll have an answer closer to that, so to let you all know.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I saw a video of a laser light show, or a drone, may have been a drone show that they put on, I think over in Tampa, and it was pretty impressive, actually. So,
That was St. Pete Pier.
is that where it was?
Yeah.
Okay. Just a thought.
So it's not a hard no from everybody, we're just gonna look into it a little bit more?
It's,
Okay, I would like, no one said anything, so I just want to be able to give them some.
I actually am fine with it personally, but I would like to see us be able to trim a little bit here and there to do it. It's kind of hard to talk about watching our budget and then, you know, in the next breath say, let's give somebody $10,000.
Yeah.
So, Vice Mayor Price, have you got anything else?
That's it.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question, and it's under City Manager's Office. It's on page 29 of 82. It's under the professional services. Is there a special services that you attend on that?
Yeah, that's I apologize. That's on our lobbyists that we hire, and obviously the lobbyist was one of the ones that helped us with getting those legislative allocations through this year. So,
okay. What about under promotions? What do you have?
Promotions, those are trying to remember exactly some of the items that we spend the money on promotions, but it's
like advertisement or something?
Well, no, it's primarily promotions within the city that we do. If I think we take money out when we did the items that we put in the bags for the holiday weekends with the trash bags, didn't we take that out of our promotions account, or was that out of somewhere else? That was out of your promotions? So, I don't know, but I can give you a full accounting of the dollars that are spent on that promotion account.
Okay. The other thing I had a question on is under the Finance Department. It's on page 36 of 82. It's under travel and training. Do you have something there for travel and training?
I'll yield to Andrew on that one.
So do you want to know the amount spent to date? I can pull that up and see what that related to, but typically it'd be, you know, finance, government conferences for team members, like the FGFOA is the Florida Government Finance Officers Association. So they've got conferences throughout the year for educational type training.
Don't they have the insurance trust too meeting?
Yep.
Annual or something?
Right. There's the insurance trust one as well. Yep.
Okay.
So who all is going to those, Andrew?
I think we budgeted the funds, but haven't made any definitive decisions on who to attend and which ones. We just budgeted the money for the, to allow for the opportunity.
Because I know this past year, basically, those types of things were non-existent.
Right.
And I know we had a Council of Mayors meeting in Orlando for 3 days last week. And while those things are interesting and fun, I don't know if the city actually gets that much bang for the buck. It's fun to go and meet other people in the industry is not the right word, but doing the same thing you are and talk. But honestly, I don't know how much real value for the dollar we're getting, and I think all the departments need to look at that and be sure it's not just a nice long weekend ticket on the city, and be sure that we're actually getting some value added out of these conferences that we go to. Some of them I know are required, but some of them are not. So let's look seriously at whether we're getting value. And I direct that to the city manager, but convey that to all your directors that if we're really not getting value of it, then let's just simply cut it out.
Well, don't you require some sort of continuing education or something in the finance, accountants and things?
For CPAs, yes, there is. Yep, so.
That would be included in there?
That would be a mechanism for CPA, which our accounting manager, Patrick, is, to be able to fulfill those educational requirements.
Okay, I have another one for Jay. He has a minute. It's on page 51 of 82. It's under the overtime.
Yes.
I was just curious about the amount that they're showing there for the overtime. Is it everybody in the rec center that's on overtime? What a bit.
That accounts for necessary overtime for event. I mean, we
Like the weekends and after?
Yeah, currently the staff is. I mean, the expectation of the way we work is our 40 hours aren't traditional 40 hours, but there are certain weeks where we have, those college tournaments that we have. We're running after school care, all our programs during the week, and then we've got 3 full weekends of every single person on staff being here for way more hours than we plan, and we still try to take days off in the middle of the week. So that number might actually be. I think we've got to discuss. It might actually be low compared to. I mean, because if you look back at FY20, it was at 20,000. That's when we had 5 weeks of college tournaments, and then this year is we didn't even have the tournaments, and we're at 7,000. So, but it's not. We try our hardest to avoid it, and I work a lot of situations to avoid overtime and to pay out unnecessarily. So,
Jay, wouldn't some of 2020's overtime be COVID related? The time and a half that was during March to May, we were getting time and a half.
That's very, very possible. 2020, we were in week 5 of the college tournament, so we did 4 weeks of that with overtime. And then I know my staff was covering the front desk here and covering at the fire department and covering other areas during that time of need. I think the healthy number is somewhere in the middle there, but yeah, 20 was definitely a big, and a lot of that this year too. I mean, we did a lot more softball tournaments on the weekend, and we mentioned part of that lower wage discussion. I'm currently down 6 bodies, not 6 FTEs, but 6 actual people that normally can work part-time. So we're putting bubble gum in leaks right now. So
Well, you've got 9.25 full-time equivalent employees. You're now down to 3?
Those 6 people are half FTE each, so we're down 3 FTEs.
Okay.
And then I have 2 of them, and so we actually have 11.25. I have 2 in Archibald, but yeah, we're down, and that's for after school care, which is on a waiting list right now. But that's not part of the discussion. But
So someone like me looking at this, I see over $100,000 budget increase for salaries and wages, and I see 9 employees, and it equates to $10,000 increase, right?
well, so for example, those part-time, the 0.5 FTEs. So one of those half employees is allowed 29 hours. In previous budgets, they were budgeted for 10 hours. So we were going under budget throughout the year. The assumption is that they were a 520 hour per year employee when they're actually a 1040 hour per year. So they were budgeted at half of their projection, and that accounts for 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 4.5 FTEs, which is actually 9 bodies. So we only operate 5 part-time positions during the day for after-school care. We have 3 in that building and 2 over here. But those 5 positions are covered over the course of the week by 9 people. So they're not necessarily working those full hours. If that makes sense. I might have made it worse.
Okay. I'm going to simplify it.
So there's not an actual increase. It's a budgeted increase, but that's not actually being paid out. Like every single
Then
one of those.
why is it in here if we're not going to pay?
Well, every single one of those, they're budgeted for 30 hours, but if I budget those employees for 10 hours, then we're going to be, like right now, we're behind on the budget, because they're budgeted at 10 hours a week.
Right.
And there's 25 available hours for those employees. So there's got to be they have to be budgeted. Like if there's no money there, then I can't work them, and then we don't have a program that we can run.
So I see where you were budgeted last year for $265,300 for salaries.
Yes.
But in reality, it looks like it's going to be about $300,000.
Correct, and that was.
So next year you're asking for $377,000. So that's $77,000 more towards salaries for you next year for 9 employees, 9.25 employees.
9.25 employees, but 6 of those are full-time.
I don't care.
6 of those account for.
The fact remains, you want $77,000 more dollars for next year for salaries, and you've got 9.25. So even though it says 9.25 full-time equivalents, I mean, someone like me looking at this thinks that $77,000 is going to be divided between these 9.25 positions.
And it isn't. I know what you're saying. On paper,
I've got
the way it looks.
3, 4, 5, 6 people. Or no, 9.25. No, this says you've got 9.25 people, full-time equivalents. Got 2 recreational leader 2s, which are included there. So I mean, it just looks really like a huge increase. You've asked for more salary than just about anybody.
And that's over and above the 2 months that we went paying everyone time and a half this past year.
Well, yeah, we did pay more.
So to lay that out,
I mean,
you have the 9.
So the 9.25 is really what, 12 people? Is what you're saying?
So the 9.25, 4 full-time people. One is me, and then I have 3 people.
Okay.
So, and then the other 5.25 accounts for half positions. So there's, let's see, 5.25. We do 10 half positions. So that's 10 bodies that cover 5 positions, and that's part-time at 30 hours a week with no benefits. And then we have a 0.25, which is a seasonal position.
Right.
That covers summer if necessary. So we have those people budgeted, and then when it goes to summer, if we're short any number of FTEs, we break those up into temporary summer positions. So this summer we had 4 people that accounted for 1 FTE at $10.21 an hour.
Yeah.
So that increase the jump from, so first of all, the 265 is down because in a COVID year, we cut 2 positions to save money. We got halfway through the year and we needed to add a position, which is why we're up to 297. The 377.
That was the budgeted amount, though. That wasn't
Correct. The budgeted amount was 265. The previous year was 281. We cut a full position. That was
Oh, that was
Megan.
actual.
Okay, so that was when, halfway through that year, that was when Megan Powers moved over to City Hall.
Okay.
So then we took the remainder of her salary, removed that at 265, and then we got a portion through the year and realized that we needed help because it was starting to ramp back up. So that's why we were at 297.
Okay.
And if you look at the 377, that includes all of the adjustments with the sliding scale of the 1250, which in my department, I mentioned 10, 11 bodies. That's 11 people that are making less than $12.50, including actually 12th person who is making, she is the part-time Rec 2 that I'm trying to make full-time this year. So that's an addition of her half position. She's going to get bumped up because she's below $12.50 as well. So that was
So
to
you
make up
have
for
the
that.
big increase because you had more $10 an hour people
Yeah, my
that
yes.
we need to bring up. Yes. Got it.
Preferably, yes. And then if we go back to that original 2016 or 17, that sliding scale, so from then till now, that 377, well, actually the full total number at the bottom is a 12% increase over the course of those, 5 or 6 years. I'm not sure the number, but
You answered me.
yes.
Thank you.
So I just want to make that clear. Thanks.
Yes. You finally did.
I just had it in my head.
I'm done, Mayor.
Okay. This past year, we, I hate to call it a curveball, but we gave the Little League $10,000 for their travel to the World Series. Is that in this budget? Am I missing it?
No, sir. Actually, we've got a slightly different arrangement now with them because they're at the point now where their finances are able to handle within. Because the intent of having the finances through the city was to get them going. So at this point, I've curled back. I've removed the umpire expenses and I've removed I forget the other one, or their uniforms and all those expenses, and dropped that number from, I think it was 38,000 down to 10. And then we're asking them, instead of their registration fees, they're going to pay us a $10,000 fee to match that $10,000 in expenditures that we'll utilize on maintenance of the fields. So it's going to be a wash. But I did not put the $10,000 donation in that budget for the case that teams advance to the World Series again.
Well, I just want to be sure we know it's coming. That's why I'm asking, because I didn't know it was coming this past year. So, and
That's. I mean, this year we actually didn't move any additional money to make that happen, but that's because it was budgeted within. Well, not necessarily budgeted, but there was enough room based on the expenditures. Typically, we build it and find it. It's always kind of a strain near the end of the year, but that would be up to the group.
well, I just want to, if we've got that kind of an expenditure coming, I think we should all know it's coming. So, and that's why I mentioned maybe we should just put it in as a line item. So, and maybe I'm wrong.
You mean to add it to MB Little League, the 5102 account? You have 10,000 in there now.
We just won't touch it unless we have to.
Yeah,
Or it
and then
can
we
roll
and
over
then we
into
know
next
up
year
front.
if they don't make it.
We got this
but
event
at least
coming up.
you'll know.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll add 10,000 to that.
Okay, I guess I'm up on my stuff. The big notes I have on here are Marguerite and Pruitt, which we've already covered, and the groins, and I may be missing them somewhere in here.
Should be. Let me check the page on that.
You should find them in the Archibald account in the CIP. I didn't bring my computer up here, sorry.
It is on in Archibald on page 58 of 82 we have it as a 2-year project, so $400,000 for FY 2022, and then $600,000 in FY 2023.
Oh, okay, there it is.
And then we've got a state grant, on the previous page, we've got state grant beach growings for $280,000 for FY 2022.
Yeah, okay. So where's the state money falling in on this then, Andrew?
For the beach growings?
Yes.
So on page 57 of 82, Archibald has a revenue, an inflow table, and the first line item is Archibald beach parking meters, and then just below that is state grant beach growings.
I see that, but we're getting 1.75 million.
Well, that's the revenue we intend, because I believe it's a reimbursement based, or we have to incur the expenditures, and we're projected to spend $400,000 in 2022. So the grant revenue we intend on receiving from that $400,000 expenditure is $280,000.
Okay. I just want to be sure we're moving ahead with all that, and getting all the beans we can out of the state. The other thing is undergrounding of utilities. Yeah, don't go far.
I was just going to sit right there.
What we need is a high top chair that can sit there.
No, that's not necessary. We had a meeting today with Duke Energy, the undergrounding, so we're going to take a different approach for Phase 3. We're going to actually have the land and services involved. I believe that was her title, which will make it way more efficient. And she's going to send us over a proposal today for acquiring those easements needed for the utilities, and then it's in the works.
I'm at the point where, as we drag this out, and I know we've been doing it because of pennies for Pinellas, but year by year, the price just goes up.
Absolutely.
And up and up. And originally, I think it was $1 million a mile, which was $2 million. It's way, way above that now. And I'd like to see us, even if we do it out of general funds and then get reimbursements, in future years from pennies for Pinellas, I think we might be money ahead to go ahead and do that and bite the bullet and just get the project done.
Our plan is Phase 3 is from 144th all the way down to do it in one shot. No more Phase 3, 4, 5.
From 144th.
44th, 45th.
So, yeah, but that still leaves...
all the way to Johns Pass Village.
This end.
This end's done.
Is it really? What have I been looking at?
Well, you might be seeing the poles from 150th to 144th are not down yet.
Okay,
Waiting on
that's what...
Energy for that. You'll start seeing them within the next few weeks to start pulling those wires.
Great. I'm glad we're just going ahead and...
Didn't we sign an agreement on how we were going to, I remember that was one of the first things we did.
Yes.
Go over that, and we agreed that the county would do the work or something, and...
No, actually, the county is funding us the amount of money that's our appropriate share out of the dollars. And we sat down and at that time, and we felt that we could do it for that amount of money without having to spend any additional funds. So what we're trying to do now is pull in the costs from Duke, which we were, I guess, we were unable to do you had the title of it, it was
The binding cost estimate
binding
we've already
cost
gotten from
estimate,
Duke Energy.
which we still haven't gotten from Duke Energy. So this meeting today was very good because we're working on getting that done so we know what their expenses are. And I think we've got some information that's either coming or we've received on the it's Spectrum, on their aspect of it. And I think the one we're missing is Frontier, which are the three major people that we relocate underground. So, but yes, there was a funding agreement that we approved with the county, which stated that amount of money. And then there was a plan on how to spend that money over 5 years. And I think a lot of jurisdictions have had the same problems because of not only with COVID and everything else and getting them done, but also Duke is outstretched all over the rest of the county to finish these projects for them. And I think if we come in with an aggressive plan and I can take it back and say, listen, if we don't do it up front, we're going to probably have increased construction costs and the county's not going to pay us that extra money. So we just need to go back to them because of the environment that we're working within on the cost overruns for construction to make sure that we can still bring it in within the number that we're getting.
And I think there's probably state grant money available that we can apply for.
I'm working on a couple grants tomorrow.
Yeah, under that, what I understand from Representative Cheney, that just came out in this last legislature, so we can go for that, and that will help defray some of the cost. Plus, we'll be getting the pennies for Pinellas money back year by year to help pay for the project. So I think although we're spending money out of general funds to get it done, over the 5-year period, it's going to be a win for the city on what it would have cost us. I think, maybe I'm wrong. You can throw rocks at me. I've had them thrown before.
I think it just is going to be interesting to see what the price comes back at. I think it's...
Okay. And the other couple of things I've got, don't go too far. And we need to at least look at it. I don't know, we've got to wait on this, but it's looking like we may be going for a public works building rather than a high dry. I don't know. We'll have to see how the RFP comes back, but something for us to all keep in the back of our minds on that. And a restaurant, I think at least those two things can be a go, but maybe it's a little too aggressive to think about it in 2022. So, okay, that's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if something materializes on that, and we can always make a budget amendment during FY22 if we want to plan expenditures during that year.
Okay. Commissioner Andrews.
I pretty much said my piece. I think, the only thing I would like to just sit on here for 1 second is I think our next meeting, we kind of talked about scrubbing the payroll charts. I mean, if we're not comfortable with 3%, we're not comfortable with 6%, we're not comfortable, because, let's be fair, the people that deserve raises should get raises because we need to maintain top quality talent. People that don't, they don't get them. But, we need to clean this up because we're looking at positions that don't match the salary. We're looking at positions that don't match what they do. And if we don't scrub this now, we're going to be having the same exact conversation next year when we sit here. And, it's one thing to talk about it and get all fired up about it and then just leave it for the next commission or the next year, and then it'll never happen. So there was a lot of stuff added over that 3-year period of time that, from before, that is completely unnecessary in the city. Not saying anybody's a bad person, but it was completely unnecessary, and it's kind of our job. We're the stewards. If this was our personal business, okay, which the citizens have kind of put us in charge of running and making the rules for, I think we gotta really, really scrub this and take a good look at it, because just passing it along and passing the buck and just complaining about it and doing nothing ain't gonna solve anything. Thanks, guys.
Nope, 100%. We've got to do that. I opposed it last year, and I opposed 3% this year. We've got to hold it down, and yeah, on the lower end of the scale, we got to bump them up. But
Do we
Madeira,
have, oh, I'm sorry.
no, that's okay. I was just going to say Madeira Beach pays pretty darn good money, and on top of that, we offer insurance. So that's it. Yes, ma'am.
Do we have job descriptions for our folks? Well, we need that chart updated, although I don't want to know the name of the person that holds the position. I agree with you. No. Right? So
That's
we can take that
completely
out.
irrelevant, you're right.
Right. So, and let's just talk about the positions themselves and revamp it. I mean,
Yep. Yeah, we definitely need a meeting just on that. And at the end of this one, we'll go ahead and schedule one.
Thank you, guys. That's exactly what I'd like to do. Thank you.
Commissioner Hudson?
Okay, you guys Googled me on doing this stuff, so I need to catch up. Undergrounding of utilities, is that aesthetics only, or is that hardening the utilities for future storms and things like that?
Both.
Okay. Is that also the time to raise the height of Gulf Boulevard or do something, whatever the long-term plan is, what we're going to do for future sea level rise and things like that? I think the Planning Commission is working on something like a plan for the future. Is that when we should be raising the street at the same time?
We don't.
First, that's a state road, but
Yeah, we don't own Gulf Boulevard, and we just did a mill and resurface of Gulf Boulevard last year, 2 years ago. It's very recent.
Right.
Yeah, so that would be something that FDOT would have to design, and they're not going to do that with just spending the amount of money of milling and resurfacing recently.
Okay, then raising a sidewalk or doing something. I don't want us to do something and then have the Planning Commission say, well, the first thing you have to do is change the height of Gulf Boulevard.
yeah, honestly, I don't see that happening in the foreseeable future.
Okay.
And when that happens, these coastal communities are all in serious, serious trouble. We'll probably be moving to Pinellas Park at that point.
Well, I think everything on the beach side is raised already, so we're more protecting the east side.
Yeah, well, the undergrounding of the utilities, if we have a storm, then you don't have the main corridor that feeds not just this community, but north of us and south of us, so that we don't have power outages all over the place. I mean, you still have them back in the neighborhoods, but even that's much better than it used to be. You know, I used to set my clock on my stove on a daily basis. Now it's down to every 3 or 4 days. So
I never lose.
Yeah, the north end did very well when Ada came through, and that might have been the undergrounding that for this north end that helped us, because I think you guys lost power in Ada.
yeah, I think we did. So.
Okay. And the other thing I have is for Andrew, the debt service. And so we're paying off one of the major debts this year, that's $338,000. is that all coming from the general fund or a mixture of things? On page 12 of 82.
Yep, let me get to that. So on those two, the debt service payments were made out of the debt service fund, and the general fund does transfer money to the debt service fund each year. And so, yes, those two debt instruments outstanding. We've got the Capital Improvement Revenue Bond Series 2013, and then the Series 2018. That 2018 one, after we make that payment in FY22, that debt will be retired. So we'll have just the 2013 left.
Okay, how long does that 2013 go?
I can, give me about 1 to 2 minutes, I can pull that up for you and let you know.
Or is that just something that kind of keeps going, we roll it over as we go?
Fortunately, that does have a finite life, so eventually we will pay that down. I can just pull up real quick the what that is. But if you have other questions, feel free.
Okay. So Doug keeps talking about we just keep carrying debt. This year we're going to have what, $1.3 million in the general budget or in the budget that was going to transfer forward. Does it make sense to pay down some of the debt? Are we allowed to do that, or are they the type of loans that you can't do that? Or how do we get ourselves out of, I guess, having to listen to Doug year after year say that, that we're too far in debt?
Yeah, I mean, the vast majority of the outstanding debt for citywide is in the stormwater fund. So there was a big debt issuance in 2019, and so there are some early termination restrictions. I believe we evaluated this before. In fact, I recall this issue coming up and me sending the commission an email actually before you started. I can pull that up as well as to what those restrictions are. But yes, we can't just pay down the entire balance of debt, depending on within the debt agreement when the the call period is, and so that varies instrument by instrument. But I can pull that information up in a couple minutes, give that to you as well.
And if I can just throw something in here, there's good debt and bad debt too. I mean, most of the debt that we have, the interest rates are so good it really doesn't even make any sense to start paying them off. The other side, my biggest complaint isn't really the debt we currently hold, it's acquiring more debt, going out, and when we, for the Crystal Island project, when we were $4 million over what we had budgeted, $4 million means a lot to a city of this size, a lot. So, and probably, although I do see some of the estimates that we should be close, we don't really know what the road project's going to come back at. I'm not really thrilled about the idea of going and getting more money in order to finish our other road projects that we have. So that's kind of what I mean when I don't like debt, because 10 years ago we didn't have any, right? But we built this building, and I think, honestly, if you look back at this building at $10.8 million, it's a complete bargain right now. I mean, can't even imagine what it would cost now. I got a little upset about the road projects that we did because I don't think it was handled very well, and I think we probably paid a little bit more than we should have. But maybe even now, even that probably won't even look so bad because of what the prices are right now. So, yeah, that's to clarify. I mean, yeah, look, debt's debt. That's how we build it into the budget to pay it. I'm totally okay with that, especially at the interest rates we have them at. I just think that we got to be really careful about borrowing in the future, because we don't want to, someday we may actually need our borrowing power, and I just don't think we should just keep borrowing for project after project if there's no incurring revenue that comes along with it. So Cool?
Yep, thank you.
So to answer your questions, on the with the 2019 stormwater financing, that issuance is non-callable for the first 4 years, and then in years 5 through 8, there's a 1% prepayment penalty for any principal called early. After 8 years, there's no prepayment penalty. So we're still in the non-callable period on that. As I mentioned, the Series 2018 debt that's in the debt service fund, that ends in November of 21, which is fiscal year 22. The 2013 Capital Improvement Revenue Bond Series 2013, that's what we used, $4,760,000 to finance the construction of the city center. That runs all the way through into the 2040s. So that's a longer-term debt issuance.
Andrew, what's the interest rate on that? What's the borrowing rate?
Interest rates from 3% to 3.5% payable semi-annually.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Nothing else? Okay, good. Just an FYI for the commission, I know I've brought it up a time or two, but I want to mention it now. I don't know, you probably saw it in the Beacon this past week, that Treasure Island is raising their parking rates to $3 an hour and their millage rate to, I think, 3.61. So when you look at those things, we're doing mighty good, and that's food for thought for a parking garage. So, anyone else have anything in addition? I think we do need to schedule a meeting to go over this section of the budget on payroll.
So if I can just interject on kind of the plan going forward, it sounds like there's pretty good uniformity in your comfort level on revenues and operating and capital expenditures minus personnel. And so what we just need to give a little more evaluation to is the personnel piece. So perhaps the deliverable for the next workshop will be a listing of positions, departments, if you want, prior or, FY 2021 wage rate, and then proposed FY 22 wage rate. And if you want, I don't know, you mentioned description of position, and if you want to focus on that for the next workshop, and then based on decisions from that, we can update the budget document to reflect any changes made to that.
I'll pass this around so everybody can see it. I mean, with the names redacted, I think that's...
With the names redacted?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we have to get too crazy. I mean, it gives a minimum, maximum salary range on it. It gives what the position is. It gives whether it's a part-time or full-time job. It gives the pay rate. It gives the grade. It gives the hire date. I mean... Okay. That's all I think we need. I mean, I think it's a good scrub. If there's anything else anybody wants on it, if you guys want to look at it, that's fine.
Well, do we want what the position is paying now, even if we don't have the person's name? It's got that on there? Okay. Well, the pay grade, but not the pay rate. Yeah, okay. You said grade. I just thought maybe there was a window.
Maybe we could have a list of the number of employees that are in that position, right? So we know how many people we're affecting with the $10,
Well, I think this will actually really be a good, because, you can take this whole grade 1, right? Everybody's under, besides one, everybody's under the $13 an hour threshold. So you can see what the increase is going to be just by raising this group's salaries up. Now, I think we've all disagreed that, just giving everybody else a $2 an hour bump, some of these people, that's going to be a 12, 14% raise. I mean, do they deserve it? I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe they do. Maybe there's some of them that completely do. I don't think that raising the minimum salary means you need to raise everybody else up so they're away from the minimum salary people.
Right, I agree.
I think we just got a new pay scale, that's all.
Yep.
And again, you bump up somebody from $10 an hour to $13 an hour, and it's a 30%. that person's going to take on more responsibility. That's
Yeah.
what a raise is all about. That's what we do here, right?
So really, we just need this with the name scratched off on the left-hand column. That's all.
Sounds good.
And schedule-wise for the next meeting is,
Well, we have, a week from today, we have a couple. Do we want to go? Yikes.
23rd. What's on the 24th? The 24th, next Tuesday. I would think we need to keep this to where Mr. Trask is available.
Sorry, I'm available on the 23rd, but I have Tarpon Springs on Tuesday the 24th.
Okay.
I've got a library board of trustees meeting on the 23rd, but it's usually over by 5:30. I don't know, or do it earlier in the day, so I'm done by 4:30 on the 23rd. That's the only thing I have going on.
I'm good all day on the 23rd, so whatever works for everyone else works for me.
Do you want to do it on the 25th before the city manager contract discussion?
Yeah, we do.
That's at 4 o'clock. You want to do, I mean, I don't think this is going to take too long to do it at 3 o'clock, so not that I want to make it a marathon day, but I'd hate to come back here 2 separate days and do it.
If I may, we do have a scheduling conflict for this room because the special magistrates meeting is here, and I think they have 4 cases. 4 cases, so.
On what, the 25th?
On the 23rd.
Oh, 23rd, oh.
You were talking about the 23rd, correct?
Got it.
Okay.
Is that?
Well, then, yeah, let's do the 25th
At the third, at 3 o'clock.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed the 25th, I apologize.
Yeah.
Okay.
You good with everything?
At 3?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, we got, that'll be a full day.
Yes.
And then the other meeting is
At 4,
4.
and then at 6.
3.
For the workshop. Yep.
Ooh, I'll get with you, Clara. Maybe we need to get another printout. Okay.
So we have one at 3, one at 4, one at 5, and one at 6.
Awesome. But we don't have anything until then, correct?
Correct.
All right, so that's good.
Yay.
Let's look at the bright side. There we go.
I have a couple things, while Clara does that, if that's okay. Mayor, I'll wait till I get your okay.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. I'm just
Okay.
trying to get this into my schedule.
I didn't want to throw too much at you.
No, that's,
Okay. 2 things. One is, we've been, the successor agreement for the firefighters is to a point where I need to meet with the board, and so I'll be contacting you to see if we can come up with a date. I know, Commissioner Andrews is happy we weren't having a meeting, but I'd like to try to get that resolved. It's one of the things that's on my list, and just get some feedback from you on where we need to head. And that's one of the meetings that Rob Eschenfelder will be here, because he handles the labor side.
Right.
And Sean, our HR director, will be here, and then you all and myself. And it's one of the exceptions that we can meet together, not in the sunshine.
yeah, in the shades meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I wanted to mention that to you, and I'll be reaching out probably starting tomorrow with you all. And but I would like to get it done as soon as we can. So
Okay.
and I've got to get some dates from Rob first tomorrow, and then I'll be contacting y'all individually. The other thing is we do the public comments by way of email, and our city attorney and I were discussing this prior to the meeting. I think a lot of the jurisdictions have gotten away from the specialty items that we had with COVID, the email, the Zoom, and, other items that we've changed because of this. And so the question came up, do you all want to continue moving that way or keeping the same outreach that we have, or do you want to go back to the more traditional method that we had prior to COVID?
The more traditional method. I think if someone goes on the website and puts in a comment, maybe we can have those put in our boxes. But reading, we're going to have some issues coming up, and reading 20 emails is...
Right, we can still supply those to each commissioner,
right,
but not having to read it into the record the way that we've been doing it.
Yeah, that's fine.
And,
or
or
even just copying them to our email rather than generating more paper. Either way, I mean...
Well, the only thing I just want the commissioners to be careful, if you choose to respond back to it, you're not responding to your fellow Board of Commissioners.
Yeah.
So I'd rather either forward it to you individually so you have it, or, I'll give you a paper copy, whichever you all want to do.
Just drop them in the box is fine.
And then I had another thought I was going to mention. Am I covering everything on that?
Yeah. One other thought that I was talking about this is that, obviously on these ones that are public hearings or quasi-judicial hearings, you're just going to need to be, since they're not going to be read out loud, be prepared to respond to the public, that you've received these, you've read them, prior to making a decision on whatever that issue that's going to come up. I noticed also in your agenda that you refer to the fact that you're accepting these comments up to 3 hours prior to the meeting, and they're going to be read out loud. So that will need to come off your agenda, and I just want to make sure that your rules of procedure don't require that, because if they do, then I just need to bring back a change in those rules of procedure to take that out.
So do we need to do anything formally to do that, Tom, or just take them out?
So right now, my suggestion is let me take a look at your rules of procedure so that if they need to come out, I can come back to you with a formal resolution. Otherwise, I'll come back to you and say there's nothing that you need to do other than to remove this language from your agenda.
Okay.
So I'm making a note to do that. I'll check on it tomorrow. So,
okay, and that will, if it has to be a resolution, then it won't be until our next regular commission meeting.
That's correct. You would need to change it by resolution. Yeah.
And the additional thing, Tom also had mentioned to me that we need to give public notice that we are no longer following that practice, if that's the case. So, and we do have a special meeting on the 25th. I don't know if we can do a resolution on the special meeting, or
yes, we could do it at a special meeting.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it then, if we need to.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else have anything? Any of the directors have anything?
Just let Clara know what to do so she can take this off the agenda for the special meeting. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. With that, this meeting is adjourned at 6:08.